The evening rain drummed softly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Chicago penthouse as Grace M. Batha carefully arranged fresh flowers in the crystal vase. At 32, she had learned to move through spaces like these with quiet dignity, present but unobtrusive, professional but warm. The Hartwell residence had become her sanctuary over the past 18 months, a place where her work felt meaningful. Grace. The sharp voice shattered the peaceful silence. Grace turned to see Cassandra Monroe storming into the living room, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor like gunshots. Behind her, 5-year-old Noah Hartwell stood frozen in the doorway, his small frame trembling. Grace's heart immediately went to the child. "Miss Cassandra, what's wrong?" Cassandra's perfectly made-up face was twisted with fury. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" She grabbed Noah's arm, not gently, and thrust it forward. "Explain this." Grace's breath caught. There were finger-shaped marks on Noah's forearm, red and angry against his pale skin. "I came home early from my spa appointment," Cassandra continued, her voice rising, "and found Noah crying in his playroom. When I asked what happened, he was too upset to speak clearly. But I saw you rushing out of that room looking panicked, Grace. I saw you." "Miss Cassandra, I would never." Grace's voice shook despite her efforts to stay calm. "I've been in the kitchen for the past hour preparing Noah's after-school snack. He loves the banana bread I make, and I—" "Don't you dare lie to me," Cassandra's eyes flashed. "I know what I saw. You've gotten too comfortable here, too familiar with Noah. Maybe you thought you could discipline him when his father wasn't around." Grace felt the room spinning. She had come to America from Kenya 7 years ago with a degree in early childhood education and dreams of making a difference. But without U.S. credentials, domestic work had been her path forward. She had poured her heart into every family she worked for, but the Hartwells, especially Noah, had become something more. "Please," Grace said quietly, her accent thickening with emotion. "Please just ask Noah. He knows I didn't." "The child is traumatized," Cassandra snapped. "I'm calling Mr. Hartwell right now, and then we're calling the police." Grace's hands went cold. A police report, an accusation of child abuse. Even if cleared, it would destroy her reputation, her ability to work, her visa status, everything she'd built. The front door opened, and Jonathan Hartwell entered, his suit jacket draped over one arm. At 38, the venture capitalist carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone used to making million-dollar decisions. But nothing in his boardroom experience had prepared him for the scene before him. "Jonathan, thank God you're here." Cassandra rushed to him. "I caught your maid abusing Noah. Look at his arm." Jonathan's jaw tightened as he examined his son's arm, then looked at Grace. She had been with them since Noah was 3, had seen him through nightmares after his mother's death from cancer, had taught him to read, had been there for every scraped knee and small victory. "Grace," his voice was carefully neutral. "Mr. Hartwell, I swear on everything I hold sacred I did not touch Noah. I would never harm him. Never." Before you continue with this story, I want to ask you something. If this story is touching your heart, would you take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel? We share meaningful stories like this one every week, stories about dignity, truth, and the quiet courage it takes to stand up for what's right. And please, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your words and support mean the world to us. Now, let's find out what happens next. Cassandra stepped between them. "Jonathan, you need to make a decision right now. Either you trust me, your fiancée, the woman you're planning to marry in 2 months, or you trust the help. This is about our future family, about Noah's safety." Jonathan's eyes moved between the two women. Cassandra had entered their lives 8 months ago through mutual friends. She was polished, connected, everything that seemed appropriate for someone in his position. She had promised to be the mother figure Noah needed. But Grace had been there when Noah cried for his mama in the middle of the night. Grace knew that Noah needed his sandwich cut into triangles, not squares. Grace had held Noah through his first day of kindergarten when he was too scared to let go. "Where is Noah now?" Jonathan asked. "In his room," Cassandra said. "I sent him there to calm down. He's too upset to talk coherently." "I'll speak with him," Jonathan said firmly. "Alone." Cassandra's eyes narrowed. "You can't seriously be." "He's my son," Jonathan interrupted, his voice taking on an edge. "And I will speak with him. Both of you please wait here." As Jonathan climbed the stairs, his mind raced. He had built his success on reading people, on trusting his instincts about character and potential. Every instinct he had said Grace was incapable of hurting Noah, but Cassandra was going to be his wife. Didn't he owe her his trust? He found Noah sitting on his bed, clutching his favorite stuffed lion, tears streaming down his face. The room was exactly as Grace had organized it, books arranged by color, toys sorted by type, a small reading corner with cushions where she and Noah spent an hour every afternoon. "Hey, buddy," Jonathan sat beside his son and pulled him close. "Can you tell Daddy what happened?" Noah buried his face in Jonathan's chest, his small body shaking. "It's okay, you're safe. Nobody's mad at you," Jonathan spoke softly, soothingly. "Can you show Daddy where you're hurt?" Noah slowly extended his arm, and Jonathan's heart clenched at the marks. They were already fatting, but they were unmistakably real. "That must have hurt," Jonathan said gently. "Can you tell me who did this?" Noah's reaction was immediate and visceral. He shook his head violently. "Not Grace. Not Grace, Daddy. Don't send Grace away." Jonathan felt something shift in his chest. "Nobody's sending Grace anywhere, buddy, but I need you to tell me the truth. Who grabbed your arm?" Noah's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Miss Cassie." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. "Cassandra grabbed your arm." Jonathan kept his voice calm despite the ice forming in his veins. Noah nodded miserably. "I wanted Grace. I called for Grace to come play with me, and Miss Cassie said I can't always want Grace. She said when she's my new mommy, I have to want her, not the maid. But I just wanted to show Grace the picture I drew." Jonathan closed his eyes, fighting back rage. "What happened then?" "I called for Grace again, and Miss Cassie grabbed my arm really hard and said I'm being rude. She said I need to learn proper behavior, that I can't be so attached to the help. She said," Noah's voice broke, "she said when she's my mommy, Grace won't work here anymore because I need to focus on my real family." "And where was Grace during this?" "In the kitchen. I could smell the banana bread. Miss Cassie told me not to tell you, said it would make you sad and that Grace would get in big trouble if I told. She said it's better if you think Grace did it because then you'd fire her and we wouldn't have to wait." Jonathan felt his world crystallizing into sharp, painful clarity. "Did Miss Cassie tell you to lie?" Noah nodded, tears falling faster. "But I don't want to lie, Daddy, and I don't want Grace to leave. She reads to me every night. She knows the voices for all the characters. She helps me with my homework. She makes me feel safe when I miss Mommy." Jonathan pulled his son close, his mind made up. "Grace is not going anywhere, I promise you that. And you did the right thing telling me the truth. You're very brave, Noah." "Is Miss Cassie going to be mad at me?" "Miss Cassie is not going to be your new mommy," Jonathan said quietly. "And she's never going to hurt you again." Jonathan carried Noah downstairs, his son's arms wrapped tightly around his neck. The moment they entered the living room, the tension was palpable. Grace stood by the window, her posture dignified despite the tears on her face. Cassandra sat on the sofa, her expression confident, almost smug. "Well," Cassandra stood, "did he tell you what happened?" "Yes," Jonathan said, his voice deadly calm. "He told me exactly what happened." Cassandra's smile widened. "Then you understand we need to." "He told me," Jonathan interrupted, "that you grabbed his arm hard enough to leave marks because he called for Grace instead of you." The color drained from Cassandra's face. That's ridiculous. You're taking the word of a 5-year-old over mine. I'm taking the word of my son, who has never lied to me, over the word of someone who just revealed her true character. Jonathan's voice was ice. He told me you threatened him into silence, that you planned to use this to get Grace fired. Grace's hand flew to her mouth, relief and pain mingling in her expression. This is absurd, Cassandra's composure cracked. Jonathan, think about this rationally. I'm trying to establish appropriate boundaries. That child is too attached to the help. It's not healthy. He needs to understand social hierarchies, needs to know the difference between family and employees. Grace, Jonathan said, not taking his eyes off Cassandra, would you mind taking Noah to the kitchen? I believe there's banana bread that needs his expert opinion. Grace moved forward immediately. Noah reached for her, and she took him gently, whispering soft reassurances as they left the room. Once they were gone, Jonathan turned his full attention to Cassandra. You hurt my son. I barely touched him, Cassandra scoffed. He's being dramatic. Children need discipline, Jonathan. They need to learn. You hurt my son, Jonathan repeated, each word sharp and clear. And then you tried to destroy an innocent woman's livelihood to cover it up. You manipulated a 5-year-old child into lying for you. Cassandra's mask slipped entirely. Oh, please. She's a maid, Jonathan. An immigrant from Kenya who cleans toilets and makes sandwiches. I'm offering you a partnership, a real family, connections that will benefit your business. But you can't see past your sentimentality about the help. Her name is Grace, Jonathan said quietly, and she has a master's degree in early childhood education. She left her family, her home, everything familiar to build a better life. She works with dignity and treats my son with more love and respect than you ever have. She's an employee. She's a human being who has shown more character in 18 months than you've shown in 8. And she's been more of a mother to Noah than you ever attempted to be. Cassandra's eyes glittered with malice. You'll regret this. My family has connections, Jonathan. We can make things very difficult for you in this city. Then I'll move, Jonathan said simply. I'll move to a city where character matters more than connections, where people judge others by how they treat those with less power, not more. You're throwing away our future for the help. I'm protecting my son from someone who would hurt him and lie about it. Get out of my home, Cassandra. The engagement is over. Your access to this building will be revoked immediately. For a moment, Cassandra looked ready to argue further. Then she grabbed her purse, her movements sharp and angry. You're making a mistake. That woman has you fooled, has your son manipulated. You'll see. The only thing I see, Jonathan said, is the door. Please use it. After Cassandra left, Jonathan stood in the silence of his living room, processing everything that had happened. Then he walked to the kitchen. He found Grace and Noah at the counter, a plate of warm banana bread between them. Noah was telling her about his day at school, his earlier distress already easing in her comforting presence. Grace was listening with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at his stories. She looked up when Jonathan entered, uncertainty in her eyes. Mr. Hartwell, Grace, he interrupted gently. I owe you an apology. I should have immediately known you were incapable of hurting Noah. I should have defended you without hesitation. You were protecting your son, Grace said softly. Any good father would investigate. I don't blame you for that. You're too kind, Jonathan said, sitting down at the counter. But the truth is, I was afraid of making the wrong choice, of disrupting Noah's life further. Cassandra seemed like what I should want, someone from my world, someone who fit the expected picture. And I'm just the... Don't, Jonathan stopped her. Don't diminish yourself. You're not just anything. You're the person Noah runs to when he's scared. You're the one who taught him to read, who knows every story he loves, who makes this house a home. You're extraordinary, Grace. Grace's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for believing Noah, for listening to him. "He loves you," Jonathan said. "It's in every word he speaks about you, every smile when you walk into a room. And I realize today that I've been blind to something important." Noah looked between them, banana bread forgotten. "Is Grace staying, Daddy?" "Grace is absolutely staying," Jonathan confirmed. "If she wants to." "Of course I want to," Grace said, her voice thick with emotion. You and Noah are my family." The weeks following Cassandra's departure brought unexpected peace to the Hartwell household. Jonathan rearranged his schedule, making a conscious effort to be home for dinner most evenings. He watched Grace and Noah together with new eyes, seeing the depth of their bond, the easy love between them. One evening, as Grace was preparing to leave for the day, Jonathan stopped her. "Grace, do you have a moment?" She nodded, setting down her bag. "I've been thinking," Jonathan began, "about your role here, about what you mean to this family. You're not a housekeeper, not really. You're Noah's educator, his caregiver, the closest thing to a mother he's known since he was 2. Grace's breath caught. "I want to formalize that," Jonathan continued. "I want to make you Noah's official nanny and educational coordinator. Better compensation, set hours that respect your time, and full support for you to complete your U.S. teaching certification if you're interested." "Mr. Hartwell, I don't need." "It's not about what you need. It's about what you deserve. And please call me Jonathan. We're long past formality, don't you think?" Grace smiled, tears threatening. "Jonathan, then, thank you. This means more than you know." Over the following months, something shifted between them. It started small, Jonathan staying in the kitchen while Grace prepared dinner, talking about their days. Grace joining them for movie nights when Jonathan insisted. Shared laughter over Noah's latest precocious questions. Comfortable silences that felt like understanding. One Saturday afternoon, they took Noah to the Lincoln Park Zoo. As they watched the monkeys, Noah between them holding both their hands, Jonathan found himself studying Grace. The sunlight caught the warm tones of her skin, highlighted the intelligence in her eyes, the genuine joy in her laugh as Noah pointed excitedly at the animals. "Thank you for today," Jonathan said as they sat on a bench sharing ice cream. "For what? Noah's the one who wanted to come," Grace replied, wiping chocolate from Noah's chin. "For being you, for being exactly who you are." Grace met his eyes and something unspoken passed between them. Understanding, possibility. That evening, after Noah was asleep, they found themselves on the penthouse terrace, the Chicago skyline glittering before them. "Grace," Jonathan said quietly, "can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Do you ever think about the future, about what you want your life to look like?" Grace was quiet for a moment. "I used to have very specific plans. Return to Kenya eventually, open a school, teach, but life has a way of surprising you. Now, when I think about the future, I think about Noah learning to ride a bike, starting first grade, growing up. I think about being here for those moments." "Just those moments?" Jonathan asked softly. Grace looked at him, her heart racing. "What are you asking, Jonathan?" "I'm asking," he said, moving closer, "if you might consider being part of our family in a more permanent way, not as an employee, as someone I'm falling in love with, as someone who already is Noah's family in every way that matters." "Jonathan, I'm your employee, people will say." "People will always talk," Jonathan interrupted gently. "But the only opinions that matter are right here. Noah loves you, and I'm falling for you, Grace, for your kindness, your intelligence, your strength, for the way you make our house a home." "I've been falling for you too," Grace whispered. "Both of you, but I was afraid to hope, afraid it was impossible." "Nothing's impossible," Jonathan said, taking her hand. "Not if we're honest about what we feel and what we want." Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, full of promise. 6 months later, on a perfect autumn day, Grace Mbatha became Grace Hartwell in a small ceremony attended by close friends and Grace's family, who flew in from Kenya. Noah served as ring-bearer, his pride evident in every careful step. As Grace walked toward Jonathan, he thought about the journey that had brought them here. A false accusation that had revealed the truth, a crisis that had shown him what really mattered. When it came time for vows, Jonathan spoke from his heart. "Grace, you saved us. You saved my son with your unconditional love. You saved me by showing me that worth has nothing to do with status and everything to do with character. I promise to honor you, cherish you, and never take for granted the gift of your love." Grace's voice was steady and clear. "Jonathan, you saw me when others looked through me. You valued me when society said I was just the help. You and Noah taught me that family is not about where you come from, it's about where you choose to belong. I choose you, every day, forever." But it was Noah who surprised everyone. The 6-year-old tugged on the officiant's jacket and asked if he could say something. "Grace," he said into the microphone, his voice pure and honest, "you're the best mom in the whole world. You read me stories and teach me things and make everything better when I'm sad. When Miss Cassie was mean, you were kind. You're always kind. I love you more than anything, and I'm so happy you're officially my mommy now." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. At the reception, as they danced together, the three of them, a complete family, Jonathan reflected on how close he'd come to losing this. How one moment of listening to his son, one choice to trust truth over appearances, had changed everything. "What are you thinking?" Grace asked, reading his expression. "About how Noah's honesty saved us all. About how children see so clearly, without all the filters adults have." "They know who makes them feel safe," Grace agreed, "who loves them truly." As the celebration continued, they slipped away to tuck Noah into bed. Still in his small suit, he looked up at them with complete contentment. "This is forever now, right? We're a real family." "We're forever," Jonathan confirmed. "Nothing can change that." "Good," Noah yawned, "because I love you both more than the whole universe." After he fell asleep, Jonathan and Grace stood in the doorway, watching their son. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I'd believed Cassandra that day?" Jonathan asked. "No," Grace said firmly, "because you didn't. You listened to Noah. You trusted truth over convenience. That's who you are." "I'm a better man because of you," Jonathan said. "Both of you." Years later, they would tell Noah the full story, never hiding the truth, but framing it as a lesson about courage, honesty, and standing up for what's right. But on this night, they simply celebrated love that transcended social boundaries, celebrated a child's wisdom, celebrated finding family in unexpected places. As they returned to their guests, hand in hand, Grace thought about the scared young woman who had stood accused 18 months ago. She thought about the long journey from Kenya, the sacrifices, the moments of doubt, and she thought about how all of it had led her here to this family, to this love. Their story had begun with an accusation, a moment when everything could have gone wrong. But because one man chose to listen to his child, because one woman had loved selflessly, and because one little boy had been brave enough to tell the truth, it had become something beautiful. Not perfect, but real. Not without challenges, but full of love. A family built on truth, respect, and the quiet courage it takes to stand up for what's right. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel for more meaningful stories about dignity, courage, and the power of truth. Share your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you. Remember, the greatest strength lies not in power or status, but in kindness, honesty, and the courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.